this little hump had a ton of tulibies suspended out off the edge. Little finger that pokes out. There's some scattered rocks on there, but a couple of these shadows are looking like they could be fish right on the tip. Same thing falling off the deeper water, off the edge of it. And we got tulibies loaded out deep. So we gotta see if they are out chasing those tulibies suspended, or are they gonna be in the classic walleye structure right on the tip of this? Looks like one big blob sitting up on top there. Never mind, there's a bunch of them. Let's drop a jigging rap right down in the middle of them. Those are big fish. I would love to set the hook right now. I'm gonna go just past them to avoid spooking them with it dropping right in the middle, but then I'm gonna bring it right through them now. Got him. Yes. Dude, it never happens that fast. The jigging rap is such a powerful tool, man. Oh, that was so cool. That was so cool. This is summertime walleye fishing. I'm gonna get the net, be right back. Don't get in the trolling motor. Oh, this is, I know I have a lot of favorite bites, but the summertime jigging rap bite is so incredibly special. It's noon right now, it's the middle of the day. It's sunny, it's 90 degrees. Awful walleye conditions unless you sling a jigging rap. There's not a bunch of numbers of fish in this lake, but when you get one, they're big. Look at that thing. There's a jigging rap in there somewhere. Wow, they're fat out here. See that jigging rap, man? Scarfed. Look at the belly. I love lakes with tulibies because they grow big, fat walleyes. And usually they like aggressive reaction bite stuff. So sick. You think that thing has been eating good or what? That is a thick fish. Oh. Well, she was ready to say goodbye before I was, unfortunately, but you get the idea. It's jigging rap season. It's summertime, finally, July. These fish are finally pushing out to that main lake structure, loading up in predictable spots that are really easy to run and gun and hop on, and if they're there, they're there. If they're not, you move on to the next. We're gonna move over to the graph and I'm gonna break down exactly where we're catching fish like that around this area. There they are, loaded right off the edge of that hump now. You can see same long finger poking out into the main lake. A couple of fish here coming up on 2D and down imaging, but the way that we find these summertime spots isn't with forward-facing sonar. It's using 2D, down imaging, and side imaging. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut perpendicular across. This is just a long point that pokes out into deep water. And what you do first is run side imaging over it, look for those shadows on there. And what you can do is, like right there, we've got, whoops. And so you can see, like right here, there's 5 shadows right on the top of it, kind of before it tapers down off. So what you would do is slide your cursor over, drop a waypoint, and circle back over the top of them. But there's no reason to stop there and waste time unless you scan over and you see those shadows. But also with 2D and down imaging, a lot of the times these fish are pushing out to little humps that are just surrounded by deep water, and they might only be 30 feet across. They might be bigger than that, but before we ever put the trolling motor down or before we ever fish, we're idling over the top of it, and you got to trust your electronics. The more you do it, the more you'll know that if you see nothing, it's not worth your time. Yeah, there could still be some fish there. If there's a fishy amount of fish and what you want to stop for, you're going to see them. They're going to show up. Here, I'll try to cut right across the top here. You can see there's another big blob at about 16 feet on down imaging. It might be 2 fish, actually. So we're going to go back to side. I'm going to run right across the middle of this just so you can see. Got some little scattered weed clumps there. Well, there's not many fish on this spot, but they are big ones. You can see right here on the 2D. A little easier to see the bottom separation on down imaging. Now we're getting into them where you can see them a little easier. That's why it's so important to run down imaging along with your 2D. What you thought was maybe 1 or 2 or 3 fish is actually 3, 6, 7, 8. There's a 9th one back there, but they're tight to bottom and they're in that kind of like dead zone where you don't see them. But this is what we did forever. This is how tournaments were won forever. And forward-facing sonar is great, and I love it, and I use it all the time. But you don't need it to find these summertime fish like this. Like I said, you run over them with side imaging first, and when you see those shadows or see those fish, cursor over and drop a waypoint, and then circle back over them with your 2D and down imaging. And now normally what you would do back in the day, right? Here, look at this right here. 2 more right on the top of this little high spot. I'll zoom out a hair. It's a long point that pokes out into deep water with a little hard spot on top. But what you do is you'd put the boat in neutral or kill it and flip that jigging rap right back into them. And if you don't get bit by about your 3rd rip, you keep idling and you keep going. And I mean, that was sharpshooting for walleyes. Sharpshooting with jigging raps forever. And there's so many times where you get bit in that first couple pumps, and especially with jigging rap fishing, you get that first real aggressive fish out of the school, and if you don't get another one right away, you might as well keep moving on to the next pod. Here's another 2-pack, just a little further away, but you'd put it in neutral, and we used to always, when I was a tiller guy, you'd put it in neutral and flip the jigging rap right back in the prop wash, and open your bail, leave it open, put the boat in reverse so that you stop drifting forward, and you'd give that bait a couple pumps, and if you don't get bit, you keep going. And now obviously things are a little different with forward-facing sonar, because now when I would do exactly the same process for finding the fish, but I'd kill it, go up to the bow, drop down, and then hone in on them with it. But you don't have to have it to fish a jigging rap. I mean, honestly, I fish better when I'm not watching the screen, because then I start messing up my action, and it just seems like as soon as I sort of zone out and am just doing my thing with it, then I get bit a lot more. But yeah, the comments are hilarious about, oh, try it without live scope, and I did for a decade. And that's how anytime we ever cashed a check in our local walleye league, I was driving around with 2D and down imaging, plopping jigging raps on their head, and if they didn't bite, you get up on plane, you go to the next hump or the next little point, next hard spot, and after you run 4 or 5 of them, all of a sudden you land on number 6 and there's 8 marks or 9 marks there. So that's how we break down whether it's a little hump or a little finger. Side image first, lay a waypoint, circle back over them with 2D or down imaging, and drop it right on their heads. And once you get proficient with the side imaging side of things, then you can sharpshoot with that too. You can see those shadows 60 feet off the back right corner, and you put the boat in neutral and you flip your jigging rap 60 feet off the back right corner. Pump it a few times, and if you don't get bit, you keep going. So we've been sharpshooting walleyes for a decade. It's just people are finally noticing that we're catching fish with electronics, because we have HDMI cables running into forward-facing sonar units, so you can see exactly what we're seeing on it. But we've been screen fishing forever. You know, it's just, that's how you catch them. You mark them, you find them, and you know they're there. Otherwise, you're wasting a whole bunch of time. So as far as structure and other stuff goes, like I said, right now everything is pushing out to the main lake stuff. There's still tons of fish on the shoreline, of course, there always is. But I'm looking for little tiny humps that are surrounded by deep water, just because those are so easy to pull up and idle over and kind of S across the top and see if there's fish there or not and keep going. And it's a numbers game. You run enough of those and you're going to find one that's loaded with walleyes. And but also these long points that poke out and are surrounded by basins, surrounded by deep water. You got weeds up top here, a slow tapering point, it's a little gravel, a little rock, and those fish were sitting right on that kind of flat spot on top. Got deep water cutting in on both sides here. Some of the deepest water in the lake, it's 70 feet, 50 feet, 40 feet. And this big piece of structure that pushes out into the basin. A guy can only look at fish on sonar so long without fishing. Right here, off to the right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 marks off the back right side, about 40, 50 feet out. So now that you know the types of places that we're fishing, where exactly we're catching them, how we're finding them, and how we're confirming that fish are there, I'll talk a little bit more about the setup, and that'll also give me a chance to make a few more casts. So we'll move up to the front here. All right, that last fish came on a number 7 Rapala jigging rap in what is currently my favorite color. It's called Purple Shades. I guess I wouldn't call it a chrome. It's more of a metallic, but it's got that purple back with the glitter. I love the black bars to break it up, have a little contrast on the side, and that chartreusey, shiny belly. There's something about it in clear water. It just gets bit. Using a number 7 is kind of the most all-around size. I will bump up to a number 9 sometimes. Lakes like this, you got big fish with tulipies. Don't be afraid to try those tulipy kind of patterns and colors. Number 7 is just a good all-around size, whether you're throwing it shallow or deep. My setup with this, I've said this before, but I'm a big mono guy with jigging raps. I land so many more fish that I hook into with mono. Having that shock absorber, it's just, it takes some getting used to. I mean, a lot of folks still swear by the braid with it, and you got to compensate then somewhere. You got to have a shock absorber in your system. For me, I run a stiffer rod. I got a 7-foot medium fast. It's a powerful rod with tons of backbone. It would be way too stiff for jigging raps if you were running braid, because you're going to be tearing hooks out. And they got a lot of weight that they can throw around. When they head shake and you've got 5/8 of an ounce or 3/4 of an ounce or an ounce bait down there with one little hook, they go like this and it slingshots out. So for me, the stiffer rod with the mono being the shock absorber, this is 10 pounds Sufix Advance. I like the low vis green. These things even hook carpets. I just land way more fish with that, but it's something you really got to play with and get used to. If you want to run braid, so you think you got a little better feel, or if you're around some of that scrub weeds on bottom, then what you do is you just go to a medium light rod, like a 7-ish foot medium light fast. With your standard braid, on both of them, I'm gonna run a fluorocarbon leader, a little stiffer, 14 pound or 12 pound. Just helps keep that bait from wrapping up. About a 12 to 18 inch leader. You get longer than that, you're gonna be reeling your swivel up into your tips. You don't want that, and it makes it awkward casting. I got a little number 10 or number 12 VMC rolling swivel on here. These things are constantly darting around down bottom and creating line twist, and even more so if you're casting into the wind. This thing will spin like a helicopter about 1,000 times before it hits the water. So having that swivel just creates, it makes it so you don't create tons of line twists and issues. It just fishes so much better. And I've mentioned this before too, but the Abu Garcia Revo Rocket, the highest speed gear ratio in spinning reels that I'm aware of. I'm bringing in 43 inches of line per crank. That's something that is super important with glide baits, jigging raps, heavy lures like that, and baits where you're getting a reaction bite, and you might get bit or realize you're bit when you go to snap and you're right here and you got to pick up real fast to pick up some line. With one crank, I'm bringing in almost 4 feet of line and I'm choked back up on them. Because if you get any slack in this setup, they're off. Just like netting them, you have one shot to net a walleye that's hooked with a Jigging Rap, because usually once they break the surface, then they are gone. But make sure whatever setup you're running, you have some sort of that shock absorber in the system so you can keep more fish pinned. And this is something that I always have tied on, because you never know when you're going to be idling around, see that big old blob on 2D sonar, or off to the side on side imaging, want to just drop, give them a quick look. But there's something magical about it where there's so many times that they will not even eat live bait, and you have to trick them into eating. You have to make them just react on it, not get a good look at it, and they see this thing dart and right past their face, and they pounce on it and jump on it. The balance and the way that this thing fishes and the speed is unlike anything, and it has probably caught more walleyes than about any bait out there. And it is Jigging Rap season right now. Run those deep main lake structures, confirm what you're seeing on your sonar, make sure there's fish there before you fish. This right here is a killer Jigging Rap setup at a fraction of the price. It's a Fenwick Eagle 7-foot medium extra fast. I believe this rod is $110. You don't need the most sensitive rod in the universe for glide baits and Jigging Raps. You're snapping them real aggressive like this, making that bait pop back and forth. And when you go to snap the next time, that's your hook set. You're not necessarily trying to feel the bite. Yeah, sometimes they'll pop it on the drop and you'll feel that in the slack, but 95% of the time you go like this and you're into a fish. So like I said, 110 bucks, 7-foot medium, extra fast, Fenwick Eagle, awesome budget friendlier rod. When you're fishing these baits, it's all about the fast snap and reaction. So I'm snapping that rod tip and then I'm lowering the tip, letting that bait fall back down to bottom. You want a little bit of slack in the line between each of your rips, typically. And now when I rip it, I'm also ripping it with a little bit of slack. You're gonna get that bait to dart way faster than if you keep tension on the line. It's more of a pull versus, you know, having actual slack between your bait and the rod tip and then popping it. It's going from 0 to 100 instantly, and that's how you really get that darty change in direction. Now once in a while I'll mix up my jigging cadence. Instead of just doing the traditional Jigging Rap snap, I'll throw some double pops in there. And some days that's the deal. Sometimes you can get bites doing that. I don't really know what it is. The bait gets higher up off bottom. Also, a lot of times when you do that second jerk, the bait's shooting up and then the second jerk is making it change directions. Whatever it's got that bait doing down there, sometimes it's the deal. So play with your jigging cadences. And one last little trick for you. VMC bladed hybrid treble. I try to put it on as often as I can because I have noticed no matter what, I don't get less bites. And some days I get 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1 on someone else in the boat who doesn't have one on. It adds that little flash and flutter back there. It does not mess with the action, the darting action at all, which blows my mind. Number 7 Jigging Rap, you're gonna want the number 8 VMC bladed hybrid treble. If you're using the number 9, the bigger Jigging Rap, you're gonna use a number 6 VMC bladed hybrid treble, and they are perfect matches for it. And it just gives that little flash, that little flutter, a little flicker that definitely gets me more and bigger bites. There's a time and place for crawlers, minnows, leeches, and walleye fishing, and there forever will be. They catch fish. But there are times where this is the deal and it can outfish live bait. And I have noticed that when you do get bit, especially on a Jigging Rap like this, a lot of the times they're bigger than average fish. And it is the season, so go out, get to slinging them. I'm telling you, you need that one confidence boosting day. If you're already catching fish on a slip bobber or on a jig and a minnow or whatever, you know there's fish around you, then try playing with the fake stuff, because once you have that confidence boosting day, it's game on. It's so addicting, and it is so fun and efficient. And there are times, like today, where they will catch walleyes when they will not even eat the live stuff. So I've blabbed way too long. We got more fish to catch. Just wanted to thank you so much for watching the Target Walleye YouTube videos and subscribing to the channel. We got a lot more videos coming in hot.